Hello and welcome to this episode of RPGGamer Top 5s, and this time we're going to list the top RPGs on the Nintendo Entertainment System. The Nintendo Entertainment System, the NES, is an 8-bit, third-generation home video game console produced, released and marketed by Nintendo. It is a remodeled export version of the company's family computer, commonly known as the Famicom. As the best-selling gaming console of its time, selling some 61 million units, the NES helped revitalize the US video game industry following the North American video game crash of 1983. The system was built around a Ricoh-produced CPU, which was specially designed for the NES, which was an 8-bit microprocessor. Nintendo originally wanted to have a 16-bit CPU, though these wishes were unrealistic for the time and they had to cut it by half. The CPU was based on MOS Technologies' 6502 core, each NES containing 2 kilobytes of RAM, as well as the same amount for the use of the picture processing unit, and 246 bytes of sprite RAM and palette RAM. Although cartridges may also have RAM to increase the amount available. Games cartridges contain memory management chips. In all, there are 5 different types of memory management chips. The most common is the MMC1, which is used in games such as The Legend of Zelda and Metroid. These games would not work without the chip, and allow the game worlds to scroll both vertically and horizontally at the same time, and gives the game's ability to feature large worlds. The NES had 64 preset colours, only 56 of which were unique, and it was considered that the NES palette was actually quite terrible as far as game palettes go. The visible colour merges are blocky and uneven, and there isn't a good yellow. The grayscale is terrible, and there are 10 colour entries wasted on black. At one moment, 64 sprites can be shown on screen, with each sprite being between 8x8 pixels and 8x16 pixels, and the picture resolution for the NES was 256 by 240 pixels, and was capable of 5 different sound channels. While as a Japanese console, there are a load of JRPGs available, but the NES sold well in America as well, leading to many Western RPGs being converted, such as The Pools of Radiance, The Bard's Tale, Ultima 3 Exodus, Sid Meier's Pirates, and Ultima 4 Quest of the Avatar. But anyway, as always, enough with the history lesson, and let's get on with the countdown. At number 5, Willow by Capcom in 1989. Willow is based on the 1988 film of the same name, and is an adventure game in the vein of The Legend of Zelda. The game has the player taking on the role of Willow Offgood. Unlike the film and arcade game, Willow generally travels alone, only briefly meeting with other characters. Willow wields a sword and shield, and many supplementary items along with a wide variety of magical spells. As the game progresses and Willow defeats enemies, he gains experience points and levels. Rather than battery saving, it uses a password system to save the game. It's a role-playing game but uses real-time combat, and the game has no money system, as all items are found in the game. Willow can enter houses and converse with the inhabitants of villages to receive advice, as well as items such as magic and weapons. At number 4, Startropics by Nintendo in 1990. Unlike most of Nintendo's games, Startropics was never released or intended to be released in Japan. It was released only in North America and Europe. The story of the game follows Mike Jones as he travels to visit his uncle, an archaeologist by the name of Stephen Jones, at his laboratory on the fictional Sea Island in the South Seas. When Mike arrives at Dr. Jones's home in the tropical village of Coralcola, he finds that his uncle has gone missing. The chief of Coralcola gives Mike a special yo-yo to defend himself. Dr. Jones's robot Navcom permits Mike to use his uncle's submarine to search for him. On a nearby island, Mike finds a bottle with a message from Dr. Jones, stating that he has been abducted by extraterrestrials. Travelling to the many isles of the South Seas, Mike encounters monsters, labyrinths, quirky characters and intelligent animals, including a talking parrot and a mother dolphin looking for her son, all in the search for his lost uncle. Startropics is played from a 2D top-down perspective, similar to many other role-playing games of that era. The game is divided into several chapters. In each chapter, the players must explore various settlements and other locations of interest and interact with non-player characters in order to obtain more information about the surroundings. The player is then usually tasked with locating the source of some local calamity or disturbance. When the player enters a more dangerous locale, the game switches mechanics, bringing the view closer in and introducing various obstacles and adversaries that the player must either navigate or destroy. Unique to the Startropics franchise, a yo-yo serves as Mike's primary weapon. and as the player progresses, other weapons and tools are made available that will aid in Mike's journey, including several items influenced by American baseball. At number 3, Mother by Nintendo in 1989. Mother, officially known outside of Japan as Earthbound Beginnings, is the first entry in the Mother series. It was first released in Japan on July 27, 1989. It is modelled on the gameplay of the Dragon Quest series, but is set in the late 20th century United States, unlike its fantasy genre contemporaries. Mother follows young Ninten as he uses his great-grandfather's studies on psychic powers to fight hostile, formerly inanimate objects and other enemies. The game uses random encounters to enter a menu-based first-person perspective battle system. The player explores the overworld from a top-down perspective and occasionally enters a first-person perspective battle sequence where the player chooses attack options from a series of menus. On their turn, the player selects between options to fight, guard, check enemy attributes, run away, use items, use offensive, defensive or healing psychic powers. The player can also set the battle on autopilot with the auto option. Critical hits register with the series signature smash text and sound. At number 2, The Legend of Zelda by Nintendo in 1986. Set in the fantasy land of Hyrule, the plot centers on a boy named Link, the playable protagonist, who aims to collect the 8 fragments of the Triforce of Wisdom in order to rescue Princess Zelda from the antagonist, Ganon. During the course of the game, the player, seeing Link from a top-down perspective, navigates throughout the overworld and several dungeons, defeating enemies and uncovering secrets along the way. The Legend of Zelda incorporates elements of action, adventure and role-playing genres. The player controls Link from a flip-screen overhead perspective as he travels the overworld, a large outdoor map with various environments. While the player begins the game armed only with a small shield, a tantalizing cave immediately beckons them within, where a sword is entrusted to Link by an old man for use as their primary weapon, with the auspicious first message, "It's dangerous to go alone, take this." Throughout the adventure, various characters aid Link by giving or selling equipment and clues, mainly found in caves scattered throughout the land. Some are easily accessible, and others are hidden beneath obstacles such as rocks, trees and waterfalls. Deadly creatures roaming about everywhere are battled while attempting to locate entrances to large underworld dungeons, each a unique maze-like layout of rooms connected by doors and secret passages, often barred by monsters which must be defeated or blocks moved to gain entrance. Dungeons also contain useful items which Link can add to his inventory, such as a boomerang for stunning enemies and retrieving distant items, and a recorder with magical properties. By successfully completing each dungeon to obtain all 8 pieces of the Triforce of Wisdom, the artifact allows entrance to the final dungeon to defeat Ganon and rescue Zelda. Apart from this exception, the order in which the game may be completed by traversing any given dungeon in the overworld is largely flexible to players, although they do steadily increase in difficulty by number, and some rooms can only be passed by using items gained in previous locations. There are even dungeons with secret entrances which must be uncovered while freely wandering the overworld after acquiring useful items. This great freedom of where to go and what to do at any point allows for many ways of progressing throughout the game. It's even possible to reach the final boss without receiving the normally vital sword at its outset. Notable mentions: Ultima 4 Quest of the Avatar by Origin in 1990. The NES port of Ultima 4 is very different from the other versions of the game. The graphics had to be completely redone, as was the music, and the dialogue options were greatly reduced. Among other gameplay changes, the player cannot have all 7 recruitable characters in the player's party at the same time, as one could in other versions. Any character over the 4 the player could have will stay at the hostel at Castle Britannia, requiring the player to return there to change characters. However, the combat system was fairly close to the personal computer games, with the additional option to use automated combat. Additionally, the spellcasting was simplified, removing the need to mix spells. Some puzzles were removed as well. This port also replaced the character Julia the Tinker with a male character named Julius. Some of these changes were done because of the memory limitations of being on a single cartridge instead of multiple floppy diskettes. River City Ransom by Infogrames in 1989. River City Ransom, later released to Street Gangs in the PAL regions, is an open-world action role-playing beat-em-up video game The plot follows high school students Alex and Ryan as they cross River City in an attempt to reach River City High and rescue Ryan's girlfriend Cindy from the clutches of a villain called Slick. Along the way they battle with gangs of students, with names such as the Generic Dudes, the Frat Guys, the Jocks, or the Squids, and several gang leaders which act as bosses or sub-bosses. River City Ransom is a beat-em-up game with action role-playing elements. The game is non-linear, allowing players to explore an open world in a sandbox manner. The fighting style is very similar to Double Dragon, in that the player can move freely around the screen while pressing buttons to punch, kick, or jump. Objects such as brass knuckles, steel pipes, and trash cans can be used as melee weapons or thrown at enemies. However, the character's effectiveness in battle is determined by several statistics and their knowledge of fighting techniques such as Grand Slam, Stone Hands, and Dragon Feet, which are purchased as books in shops throughout the city using funds recovered from defeated gang members. This loot may also be spent on various food items and spa treatments, which serve to not only revitalize the player's stats, but may also permanently increase attributes like punch and kick. The Magic of Scheherezade by Culture Brain in 1989. The Magic of Scheherezade, which is also known as Arabian Dream Scheherezade, has the plot which involves a player character who suffers from amnesia, travelling through time in an attempt to rescue Princess Scheherezade from an evil wizard, Sabaron, who has summoned the demon Gora Gora to do his bidding. The game was innovative for its time, incorporating elements of action-adventure and RPG styles, featuring a unique setting based on the Arabian Nights, allowing time travel between 5 different time periods, having 2 different combat systems for real-time solo action and turn-based team battles, and introducing team attacks where 2 party members could join forces to perform an extra powerful attack. A manga based on the game was released in Japan. The majority of play takes place on an overhead map where the player moves between screens, as in The Legend of Zelda. In each world, the player must complete a number of tasks and recruit the area's allies, travelling between 2 eras of the world using the time gate found on a particular screen. The game's time travel effect is similar to The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, with an overworld looking both similar and yet drastically different. Landscapes are numerous and include the tree-lined overworld, towns, deserts, underwater areas, dimly lit dungeons, and palace labyrinths. Sweet Home by Capcom in 1989. Sweet Home is a survival horror role-playing game, developed and published by Capcom for the Family Computer in 1989. It is based on the Japanese horror film of the same name, and tells the story of a team of 5 filmmakers exploring an old mansion in search of precious frescoes hidden there. As they explore the mysterious mansion, they encounter hostile ghosts and other supernatural enemies. The player must navigate the intricately laid out mansion, battling with the enemies and keeping the player characters alive with the limited weapons and health restorative items available. The game is set within a mansion which has a cohesive, intricate layout, and there are 5 playable characters who can venture solo or explore in teams of 2 or 3. The player can switch between characters and parties at any time. The 5 characters each have a unique item that is necessary to complete the game: a camera, a lighter, a medical kit, a lockpick, and a vacuum cleaner. Along with these items are others that can be picked up and dropped anywhere and retrieved later by other characters. Sweet Home places an emphasis on puzzle solving, item inventory management, and survival. The player must backtrack to previous locations in order to solve puzzles using items acquired later in the game. In this sense, the interconnected mansion is gradually explored in the style of the Metroidvania games. Enemies are encountered randomly, and the player must fight or run away through a menu-based combat. The battles are presented in first-person perspective, and there are a variety of enemies, including zombies, ghosts, and dolls. The only way to restore health is through tonics scattered across rooms in the mansion. And at number 1, Final Fantasy by Square in 1987. Final Fantasy was originally conceived under the working title Fighting Fantasy, but trademark issues and dire circumstances surrounding Square prompted the name to be changed. The game was a great commercial success, received generally positive reviews, and spawned many successful sequels and supplementary titles in the form of the Final Fantasy series. The original is now regarded as one of the most influential and successful role-playing games on the Nintendo Entertainment System, playing a major role in popularizing the genre. Critical praise focused on the game's graphics, while criticism targeted the time spent wandering in search of random battle encounters to raise the player's experience level. By March 2003, all versions of Final Fantasy had sold a combined of 2 million copies worldwide. The world of Final Fantasy is inhabited by numerous races, including humans, elves, dwarves, mermaids, dragons, and robots. Most non-human races have only one town in the game, although individuals are sometimes found in human towns or in other areas as well. Final Fantasy has 4 basic game modes: an overworld map, town and dungeon maps, a battle screen, and a menu system. The overworld map is a scaled-down version of the game's fictional world, which the player uses to direct characters to various locations. The primary means of travel across the overworld is by foot. A ship, a canoe, and an airship become available as the player progresses. With the exception of some battles in preset locations or with bosses, enemies are randomly encountered on field maps or on the overworld map when travelling by foot, canoe, or ship, and must either be fought or fled from. The game's plot develops as the player progresses through towns and dungeons. Some town citizens offer helpful information, while others own shops that sell items or equipment. Dungeons appear in areas that include forests, caves, mountains, swamps, underwater caverns, and buildings. Dungeons often have treasure chests containing rare items that are not available in most stores. The game's menu screen allows players to keep track of their experience points and levels, to choose which equipment their characters wield, and to use items and magic. A character's most basic attribute is their level, which can range from 1 to 50, and is determined by the character's amount of experience. Gaining a level increases the character's attributes, such as their maximum hit points, which represents a character's remaining health. A character dies when they reach 0 HP, and characters gain experience points by winning battles. Well, that's it for our top 5 RPGs on the NES. So what did you think? Did you love the JRPGs on the system, or did you prefer the conversions of Western RPG classics on the platform? Let us know in the comments below, or by getting in touch through email or the website. So, as always, many thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you like what we're doing, but most of all, you look after yourselves, and we'll catch you later. Bye!